Life is a game of strategy. Life is essentially a grand game. We exist in natural and social environments where we strive to gain energy. And this inevitably means competing directly or indirectly with other individuals or organizations. As the saying goes, the weak argue about right and wrong while the strong expose vulnerabilities. Indeed, finding and striking at vulnerabilities is often the most effective strategy. 1. Vulnerabilities in systems. No system in this world is flawless. Each contains some form of gap or defect. It's precisely because of these vulnerabilities that the world keeps changing. Laws and regulations are constantly revised. Old policies are replaced by new ones. Each fresh wave in the economy introduces new opportunities and rules. If we continue following outdated standards without noticing that the landscape has shifted, we'll find ourselves trapped by rigid, obsolete ways of thinking. 2. Human vulnerabilities. Human beings also come with their own set of vulnerabilities, which can be grouped into basic emotional vulnerabilities and higher level genetic vulnerabilities. Basic emotional vulnerabilities. In a society that places heavy emphasis on relationships or personal ties, feelings often get intertwined with personal interests. Some people know how to leverage affection or favors to gain what they want, turning intangible sentiments into tangible benefits. However, such behavior can easily turn manipulative or exploitative. Moving toward a more mature moral code requires a robust set of rules. Otherwise, these gaps in human nature become easy targets for exploitation. Higher level commercial exploitation of human nature. In the business world, the easiest money usually comes from amplifying people's weaknesses. Think of the 7 deadly sins: pride, envy, wrath, sloth, greed, gluttony, and lust. Social media exploits vanity, financial investments play off greed, restaurants feed gluttony, shopping apps appeal to laziness, and so on. As commerce grows more sophisticated, marketing naturally evolves to stir up anxiety or push impulses, ultimately driving sales and profit. When people's dependence on credit increases, it actually signals how our society is drifting toward mistrust, because trust in human nature itself is so fragile. External rules are needed to keep everything in check. Marketing at its core can feel a lot like deception, finding ways to convince customers they need something or persuading them an item is worth far more than it really is. Many massive fortunes rely on either questionable legality or the lawful acquisition of unreasonable wealth. 3. Financial vulnerabilities. Finance has its own embedded bugs. The key lies in the fact that the latest transaction price becomes the current market price, the so-called marginal price. Whether we're talking about stocks, futures, currency exchange, or real estate, the reported price always comes from the most recent trade, not from a comprehensive average of past transactions. This is why large players can manipulate prices by holding a huge portion of the available shares or asset. Big investors can freeze the free float, making it easy and inexpensive to drive the price upward, even if the price soars beyond a company's real worth. These are just paper gains. Eventually, to realize actual profits, they must find new buyers and sell their holdings. Inflated market value. When a single tiny transaction can set a new price and by extension a new market value, it creates an illusion of massive appreciation. However, that value is only real if and when sellers can convert it into cash at that high price. 4th, vulnerabilities in social order. Every form of social order will eventually be tested or replaced. From matriarchal societies of the past to the commercial age of today, each transition or iteration of the system creates new loopholes. Investors and entrepreneurs who spot these gaps can seize the chance to profit. exploiting the order. All forms of investment or deals can be seen as exploiting city cracks incident system. In many historical examples, like price dualism during certain economic transitions, internal settlement quirk, or the early wave of global labor outsourcing, people with sharp instincts and the right connections could quickly capitalize on these vulnerabilities. It requires both keen perception and the ability to turn insight into action. 5, time as a vulnerability. In a three-dimensional world, we're bound by time. However, there's a loophole in time known as the present moment, the here and now. When someone is fully immersed in the present, they enter what's called a state of flow. This state can feel like flow and creation. Great masterpieces aren't constructed so much as they're unleashed. Think of Wang Shiji, who penned the classic preface to the Orchid Pavilion after drinking wine, or Li Bai, who created brilliant poetry in a similarly unguarded state. Their no-self condition unlocked a creative force that poured onto the page. Forget the self, gain freedom. Bruce Lee once said that every bit of knowledge and skill you acquire must eventually be forgotten, so you don't become its slave. True creativity appears when you let go of mechanical technique and single-minded goals. This echoes the Buddhist concept of emptiness and the Taoist principle of from nothing comes something, both suggesting that when you empty yourself of clutter, you tap into boundless potential. If we hold on to self-awareness, knowledge, or methods too tightly, we risk losing that organic spark. Real mastery is about building a healthy, open mindset rather than hoarding data and techniques. In forgetting, we find freedom. In letting go, we experience the natural flow of inspiration. Conclusion. Ultimately, attacking vulnerabilities may seem outwardly directed, but genuine insight begins by turning inward, fighting your own human nature, your weaknesses, your limitations. Only then can you confidently take on the external world. By understanding of vulnerabilities in business, finance, regulations, or time itself, and by adapting to each evolution of the rules, you have the chance to navigate the system more freely, possibly even accessing a state of effortless flow. But remember, there's always a deeper level, a realm of understanding that words can't fully capture. Once you truly grasp the art of exploiting vulnerabilities, you may find your life's journey transforms completely, as though the game has suddenly opened up countless new possibilities.